Hey, Bobby, how are you?
Hey, Sean, good to talk to you, bud.
Good to talk to you. Thanks for joining me today. So I just want to. I had a number of questions. First is, how did this show come about, and why did you want to be a part of it?
Well, it came about because I was at home one night thinking, well, what kind of show do I want to do? So I created it. Instead of me trying to find a show to be a part of, it was just like, well, let me just create a show that I know I want to be a part of. And, for me, it was about highlighting that we all go through adversity and, we get that decision. Do we let it define us or do we define it? And so I really wanted to focus on people. And, I come from a pretty rough background, and I was like, man, I just want to show people they're not alone at going through struggle, because as you know, Sean, people are posting stuff and it's all happy and showing their best life. And I was like, yeah, that's just not real. That's part of it, but it's not real. And I feel like people are feeling like they're alone because they're going through a struggle and they're not seeing anybody else or be able to talk about it. And so, part of me wanted to share people's stories and what they've gone through, and how amazing it is they fought to the other side. And then part of me, being a comedian, I was like, well, what can I do that will entertain people and be kind of funny? I was like, you know what? I'm going to just tackle what they do. And it won't be pretty. I won't be good at it, but I want to be uncomfortable and grow during each episode as well, because I can't tell people to grow if I'm not doing it myself. So all that, we kind of talked about it a lot. And Nat Geo was I developed the show with Nat Geo. It wasn't like a show that got developed and pitched, and it's our baby together. And so away we went, and I'm super pumped that it's finally coming out.
And in essence, what is the show about for those that are wanting to watch it?
It's about humans and just the fight to feel good. Meaning, I can tell you from Lonnie, my guy, Lonnie lost his vision from a shotgun blast, total blind. And, he said he's blackout blind when you ask him. Like, it went from being able to see to nothing. And for me to go and not just spend time with Lonnie, but to watch his attitude when he does something like he climbs, he kayaks whitewater rapids, which is what I did with him. And to watch him do it blind but have such a positive attitude and be so inspiring, like, that motivated me. And for a while, I put the glasses on and did it blind as well. And so, it was, again, to show, here's somebody that's had a situation happen to them. He could have easily let that define his attitude, his actions, his life, but he did not. He did not at all, and he is inspiring others to do the same.
And I know, since you mentioned Lonnie, Lonnie Bedwell is a Navy veteran. He is one of our Warfighter ambassadors. So we've known Lonnie for a while, which is great. You also said you went kayaking with Bear Grylls. So is Bear Grylls or Lonnie tougher?
Well, Lonnie, I'll tell you why. Because with Bear, I was in like a blow up and there were no rapids. With Lonnie's like firing down in Boise, Idaho, whitewater, dumping over big rocks in the way. Like, it was.
Or up a creek without a paddle.
Bobby! The kayaking with Lonnie. Now, the falling off of mountains with Bear Grylls was tougher in that regard. But the kayaking, Lonnie wins hands down.
At Move United, we use the power of sport to highlight the possibilities for people with disabilities. We also use sport to confront ignorance and fuel conversation, and I think your show does that. So, can you talk a little bit about maybe on those terms? How would you want your show to fuel conversation and confront ignorance and lead us to a world where everyone's more included?
Man, for me, I want people to see this show and not be held back by anything that was already in their mind and their heart and their soul. Something that was going, hey, maybe you shouldn't do this. It's probably too big for you. I don't want them to feel that way. I want them to also be inclusive. Like, we are all on this little planet together. Like, and we all have struggles we're going through. And for people to hold it against some people for what they're fighting and not, like, I'm a guy that's about love. The show is about love. It's about finding your place of positivity. It's about overcoming obstacles. And that's something we can all agree on. And that's the takeaway here, is that, yeah, sometimes life gives you lemons, but dang, I'm going to make the coolest lemonade stand you have ever seen in your life.
I think your show does a great job. I've had a chance to see a couple previews already, and I love the mix of emotions. I mean, I laughed, I cried, I felt good, I felt inspired, all of that. So, was that part of the goal from the onset?
Well, the goal was for me to be able to be me. It's unscripted. I'm pretty funny sometimes. I'm also very emotional sometimes. I'm scared a lot. And it was just to, put out what my insides are saying. And I think we're able to do that because any success that I have is because I represent people that aren't often heard from in a lot of different capacities.
He's not just gonna walk a mile in their shoes.
And so, for me, it was, I want to get our message out. I want to get our message out to people that don't feel like their message is getting heard. And so I know who I represent. I know why I'm here. I'm not a Hollywood movie star. I'm not a big New York tycoon. There's really nothing special about me, but that's what makes me extremely special. That's what makes you special. That's what makes all of us special, is that we're living our life, trying to make ours, our families, the people around us, better people. We're hoping to be better people. And I hope this show encourages folks to keep pursuing that dream.
Indeed. Now, in an episode with Ralph de Quebec, you talked a little bit about failing and falling in life. How have you responded in those different times in which you may have fallen or at least perceived to have failed?
Oh, I failed. There's no perception here, Sean. There's just been a lot of failure. My second book is called Fail Until You Don't. You want to learn? Okay, go. And if it's something that's pretty difficult or is a goal that you want to achieve, it ain't going to be easy. And you don't get it by just showing up. You have to learn. You have to fail and do it wrong a few times to figure it out. But I'd say this. People often ask my biggest failure. And I don't mind failing because, again, I get here by learning things along the way. But I'm now in the Radio Hall of Fame. I'm lucky enough to have been the youngest member ever inducted into the National Radio Hall of Fame. That being said, I've been turned down for over 30 radio jobs in my career. Early on, people told me I didn't speak like someone who should be on the radio. I didn't have a good radio voice. I had an accent. I had sent out tape after tape, and people continued to tell me I wasn't good enough. But I just did not let one person's no affect my yes. And I'm here today because of it.
You see, Bobby's got himself a mantra.
Fight, grind, repeat.
My first book that I wrote, I wanted to do a kid's book and they rejected it. And so, I wrote a book about my life. Thank God it was a bestseller. Wrote a second book, same thing. But now I'm actually doing a kid's book now. Came back around. And I just don't think without all those no's or fails, I would have got near the yeses I would. I'm very grateful for, all of the struggles that God's put in front of me. And I hope the show does that for people too.
And what did you learn about yourself, as well as maybe even individuals with disabilities, during the process of shooting this show, and at least a couple episodes that where you engage individuals with the disability?
I can tell you, with Lonnie, and he can't see, he sees way more than I do, just in general. He does. I mean, some people think seeing is just with your eyes. It ain't. Seeing is with your heart and your ears and understanding and knowing what you're capable of, knowing that there are no limitations. I mean, that's what Lonnie saw in me. That's what I saw in Lonnie. That was the growth that I had from hanging out with Lonnie and learning. And so, that's, as much as I focus the show on trying to talk about other people, I learned a lot about myself too. And so I'm proud of the journey that I took. And I don't talk about that very often, but I'm proud of the journey I took. And from somebody like Lonnie, I probably learned more from Lonnie than I did anybody else this whole season.
And you mentioned early on that you wore a blindfold as you were kayaking. What was that process of like, in terms of almost letting yourself go and allowing yourself to be vulnerable?
It was extremely scary. It was physically, I just never caught up with it, honestly, because I didn't have balance. But at the same time, I had to learn to trust. I had to learn that people had my back. And I think, if anything, learning that and understanding that someone was there for me kind of helped me be better as well. So I was very grateful for it.
And then finally, what other takeaways or things that you would like viewers to know about Breaking Bobbing Bones in the upcoming show?
I just think that if you can watch it with your family, you can watch it by yourself. This show is all about positivity in the way that life isn't always perfect. but it is what you make it. There are situations that happen in our lives that aren't the best, and that happens to everybody. But we get to make that decision on what we want to do with our future, on what we want to do with our present. We can't affect the past, but I'm not trying to affect the past. I'm just trying to affect me tomorrow. And I think hopefully you'll watch the show and you will be motivated and inspired, and hopefully it will remind you of what you're fighting for and why it's so important, and it'll be a kick in the pants and you'll go do that.
Well, we're looking forward to the show. Thanks for this type of show. I think we all are, crave and look forward to these types of shows, and it's a show that we would definitely need right now. So thank you, Bobby.
Thank you, Sean. Appreciate you, bud.
Even if it breaks him.
Bobby Bones, they're trying to break you.
Oh, great.
Breaking Bobby Bones. New series coming Memorial Day to National Geographic.
Any tips on what kind of pain medicine I should take tonight?